All right, I'm out here with Wolfie Rugel. Wolfie works for the Butte County Resource Conservation District, and we met through prescribed fire and land management. It's kind of a small world for that here in Chico. But over the past couple of years, Wolfie and I have gotten to burn together a lot, thanks in large part to funding that she secured to help build a prescribed burn association here in Butte County. Welcome to the Lookout, Wolfie.
Glad to be here.
So can you talk a bit about what drove you to start the PBA in Butte County and what you hope to achieve with it?
I started the Butte PBA because I wanted there to be a way for ordinary people, landowners, or people who live in town to learn how to put good fire on the ground and care for the land. And there's no real way for landowners to acquire that information if they don't have a family tradition or a neighborhood tradition of burning, which these days almost no one does. I don't have ancestors who managed the land with fire. I don't know many people who do have that. You can't call CAL FIRE and say, hey, come give me some instruction, give me a master class. Even a lot of consulting foresters don't have a drip torch in their toolbox. Apparently, you can get all the way through your registered professional forester's licensing program without having much understanding of how to apply fire. I wanted there to be a way for just ordinary people to acquire fire knowledge, and the Resource Conservation District was the perfect organization to take on the Butte PBA and continue its mission of helping landowners and conserving resources. Because what RCDs do is we write grant applications and bring money into the county that wouldn't be there otherwise to be able to help landowners or public land managers as well take care of the land.
What's your, say, 5-year vision for the PBA? What would you like to see happen with that energy and with this kind of community approach to getting burning done?
On a day like today, it's a pretty good burn day somewhere in the county. People are just out burning. They're out burning every day that it's a good burn day. They're giving the land the fire it needs, whether it's a broadcast burn, an old-fashioned pile burn. People are cutting firewood. People are just getting together with their neighbors. And fire is just something that's not unusual anymore. It's not such a big adventure to I was on a prescribed burn today. It's something that people are able to do just all the time. It's a part of ordinary life.
Yeah, I like that. I think one of the things I appreciate the most about the PBA is being able to bring my kids and eat some pizza and then have my kids be part of something that's exciting and kind of technical and at the same time kind of casual and neighborly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, because prescribed fire is so rare, we think of it as something like, oh, well, you might be likely to injure yourself today. This seems risky. I mean, I hear people express that, but then you get out there and like the participants in the burns that you were taking video of, it's pretty chill, it's pretty mellow. And then the next day people will go mountain biking, plunging down 50% slopes and doing something that's actually dangerous for fun.
Yeah. So I've come here a couple times now with people from BSER, and the first thing, well, not the first thing, but a common thread is I asked them what they think of when they look at this landscape here, and pretty much everyone said, I want to burn it. So since you started working with fire, is it hard for you to walk around now and look at things without thinking about what you would do if you had a lighter in your hand and permission to use it?
Absolutely. Since I started learning about fire, I see potential fire everywhere or past fire, as well as the past lack of fire. Everything is just frozen at a particular moment in its fire return interval, including us.
So when you look at this landscape here, this specific landscape, we've been talking about, we've got some burn units identified here. Mm-hmm. What do you think, what would you like to see in this particular landscape improved? What would we be trying to accomplish if we burned here right now?
Yeah, well, here in this landscape, I see a lot of young live oak, which is often associated with fire suppression. But what really jumps out at me is the level of invasive weeds. There's a lot of star thistle here, a lot of annual grasses that are of European descent. I feel like the way that this land really wants to express its grassland nature is through probably more of a bunchgrass prairie. You can see that a little further out towards the road where I think there's been a lot of good replanting. A bunchgrass prairie is really discontinuous. It's not just like a continuous fur of grass like we see here. There's a lot of spaces in between the bunches of grass. Those little clumps of grass make these shaded little microclimates for acorns to land and germinate, and they break up the continuity of fire as it moves across the prairie too. So I think if we had more of a bunchgrass prairie out here, it might even make Chico a little safer.
Okay.
And it would be botanically very interesting.
Right. So I think that brings up an interesting point of of this using fire for land management, is that fire has to be kind of part of a more integrated kind of ecological plan where we're working towards a given outcome. I went and looked at some burns in Paradise, and people were interested in burning the broom to reduce fuel loading. And I asked them, well, what do you want this to look like in 5-10 years? And they couldn't tell me. And I think that people need to know that unless you can kind of work with people to articulate what it is, the condition it is you want to achieve, we can't really do a prescribed burn. It's kind of like going to the doctor and asking them to make you well without them having an idea of what your symptoms are, right?
Or what a healthy person looks like.
Right.
And feels like. Yeah, and I think that's why, coming from a resource conservation district perspective, it's such a natural fit with the Butte PBA, because whatever you're helping a landowner with when you come from the RCD, your first question is, well, what are your goals for your land? Some people have very specific wildlife outcomes that they want. Some people have very specific cultural plants or edible plants that they want to promote. Other people have a vision that's passed down from their forebears that they want to reenact on their family's land, something like that. There's a lot of different reasons that people might want to use fire. And there's just a lot of different paths to fire, I guess. But I think you're right. There are some things that fire can't do. And the reason I was shaking my head when you were talking about the broom eradication idea is that I haven't seen anyone be successful using fire to eradicate broom. So, you can only ask of fire so much. You can choose the time and the season of applying fire to achieve different goals. There are a lot of species in California where if you apply fire at a certain time, you actually stimulate them to resprout and become denser. And if you apply it at a different time, you're more likely to reduce their numbers, kill a lot of that population, which may be your goal. So there's just so much to learn.
Mm-hmm. So you're getting a bit into the prescription part of prescribed burning, is that by choosing when and where and how much fire to put on the ground, you can kind of create an outcome in the kind of treatment that you're giving the land.
Right. A prescription is something that you take to achieve an outcome.
So I guess we talk about prescribed burning, and then is there kind of like, what is pile burning, kind of like the over-the-counter version?
Yeah, I guess so. I could see that. Some of those piles are pretty big, but then some people take the whole bottle of Advil, don't they? I guess. Yeah, I mean, pile burning is a great tool. Most people consider it prescribed burning.
It's always rankled me a little that when people say there's prescribed burn and they're burning piles, you're like, that's not a prescribed burn, it's raining out, When I see people when I see people burning piles in snow and then claiming it's prescribed fire, it kind of rubs me the wrong way, because it's like, that's just pile burning. Like, anyone can burn piles in the snow.
Yes, anyone can burn piles in the snow, but does that make it less worth doing?
When you include pile burning in prescribed fire, then you take on the liability of all those escaped piles.
Yeah.
And that almost all the prescribed fires that escape are actually like burn piles.
This is true.
And so I feel like by not just calling it pile burning, we kind of do ourselves a disservice.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. And I really love your over-the-counter metaphor the more that I think about it. It is something that is, I mean, it can be risky when used incorrectly. Like you just expressed that. But it's also a path to fire that is open to all of us.
What's the relationship between Chico State Reserves, the PBA, and the RCD?
Well, the Butte PBA is a program of the Resource Conservation District. The RCD gets the grants that then fund the PBA. The equipment that the PBA loans out to landowners is technically owned by the RCD. The we work with a lot of partners, including the Big Chico Creek Ecological Reserve, which is part of the CSU Reserves system. The Big Chico Creek Ecological Reserve has an incredible workforce development and training program, training folks up in fire, in natural resources management, forestry, fisheries, biology, all kinds of the natural resources trades. And so it's also a great place to hold trainings and to do prescribed fires. So a lot of Butte PBA members will have the opportunity to go to BCER, Big Chico Creek Ecological Reserve, and participate in burns if they have the qualifications needed, or just walk units that have been burned and learn about fire ecology, investigate the effects of a particular fire versus a particular other fire, just, tune up their fire eyes and learn how fire wants to move in this landscape. It's awesome.
Yeah, I've been really excited about working with those guys and gals. Like, they're doing great stuff there. Well, Wolfie, thanks for coming out to the Lookout's Oak office. Nice to have you out here. Nice to be out in the open air with you.
It's great. Thanks.